The cricket. The cricket had to come through, check up on your boy. What it do? So what's up, everybody? Man, this another week down, but another week closer to the goal. I'm trying to get somewhere. I got plans. Life keeps going. Uh, it's always a bunch of bullshit. They trying to, get you twisted up and caught up and chasing after the. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard, for me, because I want. But I know, I'm saying, I can't have everything right now, and I have more than I need. I'm blessed. I'm very grateful. Very grateful. Life has been good. Life has been rough, but I'm saying, life is good. And I'm saying, it keeps getting better as long as you keep going forward. I done been the backwards route. And I'm still here. Can't stop, won't stop has been like a life motto for me, because it was a whole bunch of times I wanted to give up. I was ready to give up. I was about to give up, but still going, still here, and I don't know. I say there's a higher power. I put it that way so that everybody, you know, is involved, because whatever your higher power is, whether it's Jesus, whether it's Allah, whether it's Buddha, whether it's, what I'm saying, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you have a higher power, something that's more powerful than you. And how many people can't believe that there's something more powerful? I don't know. I'm saying, I'm not that powerful. I ain't never been that powerful. So, now I have the ability to take life. I have the ability to create life. But that doesn't make me, I'm saying, give me the power to have control over other people's lives. That's where, other people, some people just want to, I'm saying, want to be the top dog. They just want to run the show. They just want to feel like they're in charge, because they need to feel like they're in charge. Not that they know what they're doing. That doesn't mean they know what they're doing, but they just want to be in charge. So you gotta make sure that the leaders you following are the right leaders. And I think, all of us are responsible for, like your community. You got to have a say so in that. You know what I mean? This is the longest I've been out of prison, since I was 9 years old. I know a lot of people don't understand, but for me, that's a lot. That's a lot, because the majority, well, most of my life was spent stuck in a cage. Who we got? White chocolate, big bruh. I don't got along with there, but man, someone who is worth listening to. I salute you, big bro. Appreciate you, man. What I'm saying? Good looking out. Thanks for tapping in, man. I appreciate everybody, what I'm saying, that tap in with your boy every now and then, man. What I'm saying? That's all. I ain't asking you to spend a dime, you know what I mean? When you got time, when you ain't doing nothing, what I'm saying, hit your boy, what I'm saying, check out one of the videos. You know what I mean? If you got some extra time, go check out some of the older videos. I got a whole bunch of stuff that I done did. And then I got a bunch of stories. Some of them, what I'm saying, some of them are good. Some of them, what I'm saying, I'm working on getting the content out. So work with me, you know what I mean? But I'm working on it, So thanks for tapping in, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody, everybody that taps in, hit that thumbs up, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Nah, I'm, you know what I'm saying, life been going good, man. It's been work, work, work all week. For me, my company, we just getting some work. So that's a good thing. White chocolate, yeah. Man, all the time, man. You know what I'm saying? You too, man. You know what I'm saying? Enjoy the weekend, man. That's the thing. I'm just, what I'm saying, looking forward to doing something. I've been work, work, work all, what I'm saying, week. Now I'm look, I ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere. I'm at home. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully, you know what I'm saying, kick back and enjoy the weekend. You know what I'm saying? I got grandpa duties. And you know what I'm saying, that's the best part of my weekend right there. But life's been treating me well. Like I say, I'm blessed. I keep, you know what I'm saying, I keep waking up every morning. You know what I'm saying? I wake up with breath, and I'm thankful because I've been places where I didn't even think I was gonna make it to the next day, or you know what I'm saying, and I had decades to do, and I'm still here. I'm still here. I figured somebody kept me here. You know what I mean? For me, that's my higher power speaking, because somebody kept me here, and I'm still here. So you know what I'm saying? I'm here for a reason. You know what I'm saying? When he decides to show me, you know what I'm saying, what that reason is, he'll let me know. Until then, I'm gonna keep pushing. I'm gonna keep trying to do the best I can at being the best me I can be. I can't be better than nobody else. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? That's not my goal. That's not what I'm here for. I'm just trying to be the best me I can be. And believe me, you know what I'm saying, it's kind of it's kind of easy being better than I was, because I wasn't always uh I wasn't always a good guy. I did my share of dirt, and you know what I mean, the stories are out there, but we here, you know what I'm saying, we talk about right now, you know what I'm saying, man, look, you know what I'm saying, it's Grandpa Joey here today. And look, life keeps getting better. I know, you know what I'm saying, I have struggles. I still, you know what I'm saying, I don't I look, I have PTSD, so I have, what I'm saying, all kinds of triggers and issues, and at the same time I got a toolbox. You know what I mean? And I keep my tools in there, and I use, what I'm saying, what I've learned to help me navigate and get to where I'm trying to go. Like I said, what I'm saying, you gotta have a goal, you gotta have a plan. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. That's, what I'm saying, that's the way it is. But it's choices. What do you choose? I know what I choose. You gotta do something different. If you want something different, you gotta do something different. That's what I'm doing. I'm right here spreading my hustle. Look, hey, Snow Rock trying to get $1. You know what I'm saying? Go and hit that thumbs up. Man, hey, this is a hustle. And anybody that knows Snow, you know what I'm saying, you already know. I'm trying to get it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't with being broke, and I ain't turning down nothing on my collar. But you know what I'm saying, like I said, life will throw you curveballs, and you know what I'm saying, you never know, you know what I'm saying, you got to get that swing low and catch that one and pull it up. But nah, you know what I'm saying, life has a plan for everybody. I believe that there's a plan. I don't know what the plan is. I don't have all the answers. Like I say, I believe, you know what I'm saying, I believe the higher power. I was raised Baptist, and you know what I'm saying, that's my background. But I studied a few different theologies, and you know what I'm saying, got all kinds of twisted up. But I just gave it up, you know what I'm saying, and I look, I trust and believe that, you know what I'm saying, the higher power, you know what I'm saying, is gonna take care of things. And so far he has. I go, you know what I'm saying, I do my thing, and I'm blessed. This is the best so far, you know what I'm saying? This is the best I've ever been doing. Who we got? Somebody Biz, like Snow Biz. You have the best background settings for real. Ha! Good looking out, man. You know what I'm saying? Look, I've been collecting and throwing this shit together. I got all kinds of shit up there. You know what I mean? I got the Gotti. I got, you know what I'm saying, the block. I got my So High Car Club plaque. You know what I'm saying? Man, you got it. You know what I'm saying? There's snow place like home. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? Appreciate you, man. You know what I'm saying? Everybody taps in, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate you. Comment, thumbs up, you know what I'm saying? Good looking out. I'm a small time hustler, man, trying to make it. This is you know what I'm saying, your boy hanging out on the patio. It's Southern California, so it's you know what I'm saying, it's cool. It was sprinkling a little bit earlier today, you know what I'm saying? It was a little rain coming down, but it was hot. Man, it was hot today. You know what I'm saying? I was at work all day on a forklift. It was hot. Man, all day I was eating dirt. But you know what I'm saying, you got to get it in, man. You know what I'm saying? That's how you get the bread. PNG. What's up, brother, man? Appreciate you for tapping in, man. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, man. Appreciate everybody for tapping in on your boy. I'm a small time hustler, man, trying to get it. Life keeps, you know what I'm saying, keeps your boy afloat. And like I say, you know what I'm saying, I got a higher power. I just trust and believe and keep moving forward and keep doing the best I can at everything I do. And man, life keeps getting better. You know what I mean? And I still, you know what I'm saying, like I say, I still have struggles. I still got issues. I still got things I'm working with. And you know what I'm saying, that's the thing. As long as I'm working on it, then you know what I'm saying, we getting somewhere. When you're not working on it, when you don't know about it, when you don't, you know what I'm saying, have the information to proceed, then you know what I'm saying, that's time to ask for help. And that's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do is ask somebody for help. I don't like asking nobody. I see, you know what I'm saying, we got Cricket hanging out with me tonight. You know what I'm saying? Hey, what's up to the homie? Nah, you know what I'm saying? I'm getting a little distracted, but like I was saying, uh it gets rough sometimes, but as long as you keep pushing forward, it keeps going. It keeps going and eventually starts getting better. And for me, I've been on the bottom. I've been I've been to the hole of the hole. I've been, prison. I've been to the whole of prison. I've been to the worst places. I've been, you know, I've been in some ugly situations. But all that has got me to where I am now. I think it's raining. You hear that? What? Oh yeah, where the wife at? You hear it's raining, babe. You better come get some of that rain. Yeah, so nah, you know what I'm saying? I've been to the bottom. So life is good. I got it good. I sit here, you know what I'm saying, and like my wife don't like when I say that my house is my cell, and this is my cage or because that's how I refer to it. But I refer to that, you know what I mean, I don't know about nobody else. I don't know how other people did time, but my cell was tight. My cell was cleaned every day. My cell, you know what I mean? My cell was clean. And you know what I'm saying? I had some creature comforts. I made the best, you know what I mean, of a bad situation. And if anybody knows me, they know. What's crazy is the last place I was at, the last time I was at CRC. And this was I did 5 years at CRC, and it's a level two. So I was at a level two. I ended up running cable to my bunk because all you have is a little antenna, so you only get certain channels. But in the TV area, they got cable, so I tapped into that cable and then ran the cable from the TV area out over the police's office into the dorm and then to my bunk. I was on bunk three. And you know what I'm saying? I ran cable all the way to bunk three so that I could have cable at my bunk and didn't have to, go into the TV room and deal with everybody, everybody's bowel movements and irregularities and funk. And some people just don't wash themselves properly. You know, when you in a situation where you already, you know what I'm saying, trapped in an environment where there's too many people in a tight situation, you know, they have movie nights and people and line up and have their spots. You know, people put their stuff in certain spots for movie night, and then everybody crowds into the TV area to watch the movie. I'm not going in there. I mean, it smells like ass and elbows. I'm cool, you know, so I got to find another way because I'll watch it the next day or the day after or something like that. But I'm not. But that's the way, you know. That was the normal thing. If it was a good movie, you want to be the first. You know what I mean? You know, so you got to deal with that. So I didn't want to deal with that. I didn't like crowds. I don't like crowds in prison. So, you know what I mean? You know, I'm gonna make a way, you know, and that's what you do in life, in everyday, you make a way. That's how it works. And that's what works for me. That's how I make things work. And that's by pushing forward. If I stand still and wait around, I'm gonna end up with nothing. You know, you got to go get it. If you want something different, then you got to do something different. I figured that out and I started doing something different. Guess what? I got something different. And it was crazy because I sat in prison the last term I did 5 years and some change. And I sat up in the cage for 5 years and some change. And I was, you know what I'm saying, you know, dealing with things and I'm going through it. And I was like, man, I just want a normal life. You know what I mean? That's it. I just want a normal life, you know. And I had trials and tribulations, of, you know, about being inside and racial and all that. You know what I mean? You know, I had a couple, you know what I'm saying, you know, a little a fight here or, you know what I mean, you know, an issue there, whatever it was. But you got to deal with what you got to deal with. It's how you deal with it, it dictates how you go forward. Because, you know, once you can't you can't let up. You can't go soft. You can't. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm not a tough guy. I'm not a tough guy. But you know what I'm saying? You know, I'm not running from nobody either. So you know what I'm saying? If you want a shot, you want a shot at the title, you can get it. If you want it, you know what I'm saying, you can come and get it. But you know what I'm saying, for the most part, leave me alone. That's it. Just leave me alone. I don't mess with nobody. Leave me alone. And hey, it took a long time, you know what I'm saying? You know, I was out on the streets, you know what I'm saying, you know, and I got out and I'm out. And I was out a couple of years and going through some, you know what I'm saying, you know, some normal everyday thing. And I was at a friend's celebration. It was his 25th anniversary. And you know what I'm saying, you know, my boy, he ain't on here because I know he know what I'm talking about. But I was sitting here talking to the man on his 25th anniversary, my homie. And I was telling him, you know what I'm saying, sitting here whining, basically just complaining, you know, venting to somebody, you know what I'm saying, you know. And he was like, so you got a normal life. And I'm like, you know what I'm saying, you know, a big ass light bulb popped over my head because that's what I asked for. That's what I asked for. And so many times you don't know how many times this has went on, you know, where, you know what I'm saying, I had asked for something, you know what I'm saying, my higher power, my God, you know what I'm saying, my father, you know what I'm saying, you know, because the way I got it from, you know what I'm saying, now I got this from a preacher while I was incarcerated. And I was going through a program that they had in the church on Saturdays, and it was called Men's Fraternity. And it was about becoming a man, and it was about, you know what I'm saying, you know, and at the time, really, it was like, whoa, it was eye opening because I thought I was a man when I was 14. I had my own apartment, so I thought I was a man because my dad put me out the house and you know what I mean, you know, when you're a child and you get put out on the streets and I just thought when I put a roof over my head, then I'm a man, right? Nah, it takes more. It takes more than that. So that's the thing, I had to learn. And now, I'm saying, I feel that I'm a man. And the man you see before you, I'm saying, a lot of people, I'm saying, heard of that guy, Snow Rock. Because Snow Rock is a legend. Snow Rock done things nobody else, I'm saying, it's not too many other people that I know that have done to the limits, and that's the thing, I'm not here bragging. That's not my stilo. That's not my get down. Um, I'm not trying to blow my own horn. I'm nobody special. I did what I was supposed to do. I don't think I should be a legend just because I did what I was supposed to do. I don't I that's my personal beliefs. I did what I was supposed to do. The only reason I'm a legend is because it's rare. That's the sad thing for me. That's the sad thing, because the real ones are far and few and in between, and it's getting to be less and less. A lot of people. I'm saying. Uh, I don't know. I'm saying. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to navigate, like, with my mentality, because I came from in and out of the juvenile institution since I was 9 years old. That was my first offense, and in and out of the juvenile hall and Campo 24-hour schools, and then I ended up going to prison. At my first offense as an adult, they sent me to prison. So as a white boy, I'm saying, running with the Crips, what? In the early 90s? Oh, hell no. It was the prison. I don't know. I'm saying? I can only speak for my own. I don't know how it was before my time. I don't know how it was in the 80s. I don't know how it was in the 70s. I don't know how it was in the 60s. I know how it was in the 90s. I know how it was in the 2000s. I know how it was. I'm saying? I think I left in 2016, and that was the day after Christmas. And that's the last day they gonna get up out of me. That's the last day you gonna make me a slave for California. You got me mixed up, or United States, or anybody else. But it's lessons. Everything you go through is a lesson. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, look at it as a L. Oh, I'm saying, he took a L. He took a L. You know what I'm saying? A L isn't a loss. It should be a lesson. For me, it's a lesson. The jungle, damn fool. Concrete jungle, you already know. You know what I mean? Come on now. What was that? Corcoran, 91. It was ugly. Corcoran was not a happy place back then. You think about it. Like I said, I can't speak for before my time, but I know where I was at. It was some violent shit, and it was some foul stuff. It was a lot of dirt going on, as far as with the police and setting up fights, and they was killing people, and I'm calling it like I see it. I seen people get shot that didn't need to get shot just because the cop, was going through whatever he was going through. And I'm saying, damn fool, I'm talking about Goody. That was foul, that they didn't have to do that. And then, I'm saying, what was worse was the dude in the tower was working in the building, and he told a dude in my building who was a LA Crip, I'm saying, don't have me do you like I did your homeboy. Like, damn, just straight blunt, right? I'm saying, in front of everybody. What? Man, I'm saying, what? Man, that wasn't nobody fuck with them police back then. Them motherfuckers was dirty. Man. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's the thing. You know what I'm saying? They beat me so bad. I was talking about, man, I'm sorry. I'll be good. I'll be good. Man, I ain't never been beat like that before. But, that's the thing. That was a lesson. I didn't take a loss. I learned a lesson. Don't fuck with the police in the shoe. But that's the thing. You learn, and everybody, you know what I'm saying, has opportunities to learn or be forced to repeat. Some people, you know what I'm saying, forced to repeat. We got fireworks going on the 4th of July. Uh, so, like I was saying, man, this it's so much out here to distract you and get you off your goal, to take you off track, to pull you aside, to sideline you from receiving your blessings. Because if you're not there, you know what I'm saying, those packages, they end up going back. And that's the thing. You got to stay on Faith Street. Trust and believe, you know what I'm saying, that something more powerful than yourself is got you. You have to do your part. You do that, and everything else always works out. I'm not, you know what I'm saying, I'm not nobody special. I'm just, you know what I'm saying, trying to give it to you. This is the only way I know how. Man, I've been this is the longest I've been out, the best I ever been doing, and it keeps getting better. You know what I'm saying, I'm not saying, I ain't gonna have no struggles and I ain't gonna have no problems. But you know what I'm saying, as long as I'm working towards, you know what I'm saying, achieving a goal, working towards correcting my character defects and flaws and issues that I have, because like I'm not good being around a bunch of people. That's why I run the way I run, and so far this works for me, and for me I look at it as I'm programming. My mind is can't stop, won't stop. But how am I gonna pay my bills? I'm barely doing that, but I gotta go to work 10 hours a day. You know what I mean? 5 days a week. I'm going up in there trying to get that, because that takes care of the, you know what I'm saying, my basic necessities. I got a place to live. I got a, you know what I'm saying, I got a car to drive. I got, you know what I'm saying, food to eat. I got clothes to wear. I got, what I'm saying, toys and trinkets and stuff that I don't need, but I'm blessed. And I gotta continue. I gotta continue going to get that bag. At the same time, I'm here trying to get the bag. This is, what I'm saying, like I say, this is a hustle. What I'm saying, everybody that's watching, hit the subscribe, come back later, what I'm saying, watch one of the other videos, hit the, what I'm saying, thumbs up, all that little stuff helps. It don't cost nobody a dime, but I appreciate everybody, what I'm saying, that taps in with your boy. Man, what I'm saying, damn fool. You always show up on your boy, and I appreciate you. Goon Squad for real. Yeah, you was there. You gotta do what you gotta do. Hey, that's how I've made it this far. I'm doing what I gotta do. I'm doing what, I'm saying, the higher power has planned for me. You know what I mean? Because every day I get up and I ask him to show me what you want me to do and give me the strength to get it done. And you know what I'm saying? I'm just grateful to wake up. There's so many people my age or younger that aren't here no more. They're not with us no more. And it's sad because a lot of people that I grew up with didn't make it to this point. And I'm, what I'm saying, I'm blessed too because I didn't expect this. I didn't expect to make it to 25. And this is being truthful. Ask anybody that knows the younger me. Yeah, I was a terror. I don't know. I didn't care about myself. So imagine how much I cared for the other people around me. You know, I was out to get what I wanted. That was it. And you know what I'm saying, anybody, you know what I'm saying, that was in the way. Hey, that's you know what I'm saying, keeping it 100. I think about that, man. Hey, but look, you know what I'm saying, we can't go back. That's over with. You know what I mean? And if I could go back, it's man, look, I would have put some of that away. You know what I mean, we was burning up, blowing money and just, you know what I'm saying, hey, it was at the time money was flowing. So when the money was flowing, you know what I'm saying, same way it came in fast, you know what I'm saying, it was going out fast. And we was buying up stuff, you know what I mean, that wasn't gonna last. And you know what I'm saying, before you know it, it was all gone. And what was left? The time you had to do for getting caught up. And not everybody got caught up. Some people, you know what I'm saying, it's sad, but that's the way, you know what I'm saying, that's the way the system is. And that's the way they want it, It's Rich Rolando's. Oh, look at that. I know this ain't my motherfucking dog. Bugs Bundy? Hood Star. What's cracking? You found out how to make it work, my dog. Man, look, you know what I'm saying? I'm happy, you know what I'm saying, when my folks tap in with me, you know what I'm saying? Because that's the best part of the day. Feel like, you know what I'm saying, I'm chopping it up with my people. And y'all done heard all these stories before, especially Bundy. Hey, tell a motherfucker about what was that? That New Year's Eve. It was night. It was going into to the year 2000, and you know what I'm saying. We was in Donovan, and we was in what was that? 11. We was in 12 building. We was in 12 building, and we was in the day room. They didn't give us yard at night. They gave us day room, and we was out in the day room. We had a spread in the day room. Bundy had the white lightning mixing it with soda, and then Jay Fody had the lowrider. You know what I'm saying? Sitting there hopping, and then you know what I'm saying. We was smoking weed. We had incense burning on the stairs, and we was smoking weed in the building. You know what I mean? Smoking weed on New Year's Eve, and then the police wasn't tripping. Man, hey, that was a good night. That was a good night, because we had big spread. I think we had the fried mackerel, the burritos, and the spread. Because it was, you know what I'm saying, we had to tell the other people, you know what I'm saying, here, man, y'all want the rest of this, clean this up. Because they only let us come out for an hour and then they ran us back in, talking about, you know what I'm saying, some control movement or fog or something like that. Some reason to keep us in because the cops, they didn't want to do no work. They was waiting to get off so that they could go party. But you already know how it goes. 41454749. Yes, sir. And yes, the 3 yard. Man, you know what I'm saying? Look, the best time I ever did ain't no good time. You know what I mean? I don't give a damn. You know what I'm saying? We made the best out of the we could out the 3 yard because there was so much going on, man. It was drugs, it was alcohol, it was, you know what I'm saying, it was a lot going on. In the visiting room, it was it was certain days when kids weren't allowed out on the patio. And this was so, you can go out there and get your freaky deaky on. And I was out there literally out, you know what I'm saying, I was involved. I was yes. But you gotta think about it. I'm incarcerated. I was incarcerated for several years. So, you know, the only opportunity I'm gonna get to get a woman to touch my genitals, and I'm gonna take every opportunity. Yeah, so you know what I'm saying. But it was everybody. People. It was respectable because people. would let you, you if you had kids or whatever, and your kids was coming, your homeboys, everybody would let you know. Little kids ain't allowed out on the patio on certain days because, you know, man, look, I remember, the homie Crip Stick was out there, getting it in. The homie Midnight was getting it in, and I was getting it in. And it was a dude from Logan Heights from Red Steps, and he was, he was getting it in. And like I was watching for the homies, and then they was watching my back, the other way. Crip Stick was watching the other way, and it was man, if we would have had a camera, boy, we would have been in. Yeah, my dog, man, my dog. He out there though, He out now, he doing all right. He's supposed to holler at me, but he didn't. I'm gonna kick him in his ass. But yeah, man, whatever motherfuckers gotta do to get up out them cages, man, get up out that cage and let's go. It's time to do something different. No more giving these fools our time, you know. We gotta stop it. Damn fool. My dog. Hold on. Yeah, and you better not sell that car, fool. I got to get my shit rolling so we can, get in traffic, man. Do some, do some rolling for real. I ain't playing. I told you. Might not be right now, but something's gonna come around. I don't know what, I don't know how, I don't know when, but something is coming. Your boy about to bubble. And that's because I'm a grinder and I'm gonna keep pushing and I'm gonna can't stop, won't stop. This is what works for me. This is what got me to here, and this is the best I've ever been doing. 619 Cali Factor. Salute, bro. Good looking out. Thanks for tapping in, man. I didn't get to stop. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. I seen that color you had too. That's cool. But look, that one's not as good as look up Midnight Sapphire with a pearl. Midnight Sapphire with a pearl. Ooh, that's a cold color. Yeah, I got a couple, I don't know, cause I'm the guy. I ever hit like the lotto, I ever get rich. I'm not, I'm not gonna go get no Lambo, no Ferrari, cause I'm gonna hurt myself. I already know. Plus, I'm not gonna fit in that motherfucker, or I'm not gonna be comfortable if I do. I don't want to be squeezed into nothing. You know what I mean? Now I could see myself in one of those Rolls Royce Wraiths. But I'm not into that. If I was to have all that money, I would have a semi truck with a trailer full of Lolos. So that I could just, I'm just had the caddy convertible, and me and the wife gonna cruise in that. And that's on airbags, LS3, overdrive, the whole gas monkey, old car on the outside, new car under the hood. And we gonna cruise, road tripping, and sightseeing and working our way. I got, my trucker, he's gonna be driving the truck full of cars. And once he gets there, he sets up shop, and then I pull in, we got cars, to take to the show, to take out in the street, having fun, enjoying life. That's what it's about, man. You know, it's a whole bunch of people missing out on enjoying life because they too busy worrying about everything else. Man, look, you gotta let that shit go. I can't control everything that's going on. So what am I going to worry about? What I have control over. That's all I got to worry about. That's it. Everybody else got to worry about everything else. I don't. I'm going to deal with what is in front of me. I'm going to deal with what I have control over. That's all I can do. That's all I can, I'm saying, if everybody does that and if everybody does their best, you know how much better shit would be. But there's so many people that want a handout. A hand motherfuckers need to give hand ups, not handouts. You know what I mean? Because I got a hand up. I tell you, I'm saying, it was people, I'm saying, when I got into recovery and started trying to do something different, there were people that was there with a hand up. They would give me a hand up to the next level, but they wouldn't give me a handout, and that it was like a lesson because it's so many things that if you don't do your part, then you're not only hurting yourself, but you're hurting the next person because someone is going to be there and you're going to have to be their hand up because that's what it's about, because like I remember how I felt after, I got out of prison. I got out of prison with nothing. I had no family left in San Diego. I got into a drug program. I just wanted some. You want something different, you got to do something different. So I didn't have no family left. I'm getting out of prison after 12 years, 7 months straight. Last 8 months in the hole. No pre-release, no preparation, nobody to go to, no family to support me. Just dropped off, I'm saying, with gate money, and parole told me they didn't even have no assistance for me. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go find it. I'm gonna look. I found the program and got into that program. That program got me a job, and then I was working with this temp agency for this company. And after 2 days, that company said, "Hey, fill out this application. You work for us now." Look, I still work for that company. In another year and a half, I get my 15-year watch for that company. And I say that company saved my life because they was there when mentally I wasn't all here, but it was people in the program. And I remember because I've always been grateful, and this company, when I first got out, they did some investing in me, and I appreciated it because it was needed at the time. And it helped me because I was I was trying, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was sitting out here spinning my wheels, and people helped me, and I wasn't used to that. That's crazy because I was raised with game is to be sold, not told. So you got to pay for it one way or another. It's gonna cost you. So I'm looking, well, hold on, what do I got to pay? What is this gonna cost me? And this was just how my mind works. And I'm saying, that's not the way it was. And I'm like, man, I'm saying, that's crazy. Man, hey, you already know, I'm saying, he has blessed me. I'm saying, he blessed me every day when he, I'm saying, allows me to wake up and have another chance. Because every day you wake up with a chance to do this day better than I did yesterday. That's it. That's all I got to do is do the best I can at everything I do. And that has got me to where I am. I'm not the richest man in the world, but I'm working on it. But I don't want to be the richest man in the world. I just want to, I'm saying, be able to provide more for my family. I'm saying? They deserve more than I'm able to do. And I'm saying, I just look, if I could give them the world, I'm saying, who, bam. But right now, I'm saying, they got to settle for, I'm saying, here's a globe. The one that goes on the antenna. Yeah, that's all we can do right now. But we're working on it. We're working on it. Nah, man, I'm blessed by the best and praying for the rest. I figure, I'm saying, The man upstairs kept me here for a reason, man. So I'm gonna just keep pushing, keep moving forward, and keep doing the best I can do. That's all I can do. What more can you ask? At the same time, I try I try not to leave this place worse than I found it. So when I show up, I try to leave it as good as or better than. And I learned this from the company I work for. That's crazy because, when we go to a job site or whatever, they take pictures and, got everything set up. And so this is for insurance reasons and a bunch of stuff because then when we're finished and they're like, oh, you guys messed up this or you guys left tire tracks, oh, you guys did this or you guys did that. So, we have proof of, oh, okay, here's pictures. And so covering your ass is always a good thing. So hey, I did a couple videos, you know what I'm saying? Let me know what you think. One is called My Black Eye That Made My Mom Cry. And then I did one about I found out that Nike donated $50,000 worth of masks to ICE agents, to the new ICE agents. And this what? Wait a minute. If they're supporting these, oh no, man, you know what I'm saying? That's I'm not with that. And that's the whole point, you know what I'm saying? People just say whatever and do whatever. And you know what I'm saying? Another thing, man, you know what I'm saying? I'm people that ain't gonna say Snoop Dogg, man, what the fuck is wrong with you? Look, I ain't nobody. But what the fuck is wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? How the fuck you gonna go up in there and suck up the Trump punk ass after telling everybody, you know what I'm saying, talking shit, talking about, you know what I'm saying, you gonna be clowning the first one to say something. That's some bullshit. How your bitch ass gonna get up there, you know what I'm saying, the dog father. You a representative, you know what I'm saying, of that big ass C, and you gonna fold up like that, man, that's some bullshit. You know what I mean? But I understand you're a businessman. You just about that dollar, right? That's all that matters, that dollar. Nah, that's some bullshit. Fuck that dollar, man. Fuck that motherfucker orange motherfucker too. You with that bullshit. You flipping the script. You knew the game. You knew the job was dangerous when you took it. Or, wait a minute, are you just another studio gangster? Because that murder that was the case? Come on, man. That was your bodyguard that caught that case. Miss me with the bullshit. Anyway, it is what it is. I'm not, you know what I'm saying, I'm not trying to, you know what I'm saying, smut nobody out, but you know what I'm saying, real is real. You know what I'm saying? If you sit here and you know what I'm saying, tell people, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna be clowning the first one that runs, you know what I'm saying, and kisses the ring, and then you go up in there, you know what I'm saying, and kneel down and kiss the ring. Fuck what you going through. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion, and you can take it how you want it. You got an issue, I ain't hard to find. I gotta start leaving comments. Hell yeah. Yeah, that was some foul shit, man. You know what I'm saying? Look, I love, you know what I'm saying, when the motherfucker came through with the Super Bowl, you know what I'm saying, and Crip, and he put that shit, you know what I'm saying, he put it on a new level. You know what I'm saying? I ain't never trying to take nothing from you, but real is real, man. You know what I mean? That ain't what's up. Firecrackers. Man, that's what I'm saying. Is this the 4th of July? Is a holiday that nobody tell me about? Man, it must be cracking. Man, I'm going somewhere tonight. Well, what the hell is the day? Oh, man, you know what I'm saying? I got to find out who's got fireworks. Watch be a mass shooting down the street. Oh, it ain't school time. No, that can't be it. They getting cracking. Is it 9 o'clock? Usually, you know what I'm saying, because from my house, I can hear the fireworks at SeaWorld every night at 9 o'clock. SeaWorld, you know what I'm saying, be busting their fireworks off. And you can hear that shit from where I live. So, you know what I mean? I'm like, what the man? But no, you know what I'm saying, they still cracking. Somebody cracking on some fireworks. Don't get caught with that shit. This is a fat ass ticket. They tripping now. ah, man, you gotta watch that shit. But that's the thing. Like I say, each to his own. It's choices. Everybody has a choice. Yeah, I hear it too, bro. I mean, these days. Yeah, hey, you know what I'm saying? That's crazy. Hey, somebody having a party. Because them is fireworks. I hear, you know what I'm saying? That's fireworks. But that's a lot of fireworks. And this is like Lemon Grove. This ain't far from me. Yeah, so yeah, it's not too far. Shit. Nah, man, you know what I'm saying? They still cracking. Now you hear sirens. I didn't do it. I wasn't me. I got witnesses. I was with y'all the whole time. Y'all tell them. You know what I'm saying? I was here the whole time. No, that ain't the naval base, man. I'm a little ways from the naval base. That is not the naval base. And now you hear a whole bunch of sirens. There's some banks over there. Nah, that ain't some fireworks, man. Everybody tripping. But that's the thing, you know what I'm saying? Half the time people be hearing fireworks and think they're shooting. And man, look, I grew up, we was playing with fireworks as young ages. And it was, you know what I'm saying, it was nothing to go across back in the day to Tijuana and get all kinds of and then just walk right back across. It was nothing. If I would have knew I remember being in county jail on my armed robbery case, and there was a guy, it was a paisa, and the dude, you know what I'm saying, he got caught coming across the border, and he got caught with 200 kilos of marijuana. And they gave that dude 90 days. 90 days. That's 3 months. 3 months. That's it. 90 days for over 200 pounds of weed. What? The dude did 90 days. I'm still going to trial. At the time I was fighting armed robbery. So I'm going to trial, fighting a trial, and the dude gets out. And like a week later, he's back. And when I see him, I'm like, hey, man, what the hell you doing back? He's like, oh, man, you know what I'm saying? They caught me this time with 200 kilos. What? Like, yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? And then we was in the same tank, man. You know how much they gave that guy 180 days? What? He came across the border with some marijuana. And the first time they gave him 90 days. And then he went back and did it again. And then they gave him 180 days. That's crazy. That's crazy. Because my first offense was an armed robbery. And that's when a drug dealer literally came into the courtroom and said we stole the drugs he was selling out of his house. I don't know how this happens, but this, I'm saying, there's court records. I don't have to, it's crazy, but this is the world we live in, because the dude probably went right back to selling dope. The police then got us and stopped us from robbing. And man, sad but true. Sad but true. Yeah, and that's the thing, I'm not proud that I was selling crack and some of the things I was doing, but I was chasing that dollar, and that's if you know what I'm saying, you know. Man, everybody, I'm saying, I was back then, everybody, I'm saying, was just trying to, I'm saying, come up somehow, some way. And you had to take whatever you could get sometimes. That wasn't fireworks. That was fireworks. Anyway, so fireworks cracking tonight, huh? Man. Hey, so anybody got any questions? Going once, going twice. Uh, it's been a long day, and I got a grandbaby in there. Damn, these lights is bright. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So, anybody got anything for the evening, or we gonna call this one a wrap? Going once, going twice. Anybody? Anybody? No questions? What's the plan for this weekend, man? Look, I'm staying at home. I done spent all my money on rent, on cable bills, gas and lights, food and electricity, and I'm gonna sit right here and enjoy it. Nah, I'm, what I'm saying, I'm chilling at the house with the fam. That's, I mean, that's it. I got no plans. It's whatever. I'm not planning on going nowhere though. I'm home for the weekend. Home for the weekend. But what I'm saying, programming, man. Either in the cage or at the job. Got to get that bag. Hey, thanks everybody for tapping in, man. I'm serious. I'm saying, keep them thumbs up. Uh, keep watching and go watch one of the older videos, man. I need those views, all that little stuff. Even if you ain't paying attention, just put it on and set the phone down. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.